Hello my dolly dearies and welcome to another video. Now today, I have to apologise for the lateness in the video. It would have been up earlier, but due to the massive heat wave in the UK, it has been too hot to work to the point my computer has not been booting up, meaning I could not get the video uploaded on time. Sorry about that. But today, we are going to be doing a new doll. We are going to be making a magical girl. Now, as many of you know, I made our magical boy Eros a while ago, and I thought he's been looking a bit lonely on my shelf and needs a friend. So I thought we could make a new magical girl. I mean, he's pretty cool. He's giving me a input name of musician I can't remember, I'll pop him up on screen vibes. So I thought it could be really cool to do another British pop star inspired doll. And I just thought, you know what, let's make her a chav. So we're going to be making a chav magical girl. I think this should be a pretty fun project and it'll be fun to try out. And also, I've got a Redbubble now, so make sure to go and check that out. I will be adding new stickers. I want to do stickers of every doll I've made, which means doing a considerable bit of catching up. But in the comments, please let me know any you would like to see as soon as possible. But without any further ado, let's get on with the video. For this doll, we'll be using Darling Charming as our base. She's just got such a pretty face sculpt and hair. It's really good quality and it hasn't actually got that much glue in it, so I'm going to save it for another project. To do this, I just put it in a rubber band before cutting it off the head so it all stays in one heap. I then take a pair of sharp scissors and snip the hair as close to the head as possible. Now that she's got a lovely buzz cut, we can remove her head from her body. Unfortunately, part of the neck peg chipped off, but it was a small enough thing that I could just put it on with a teeny tiny bit of glue. With her head popped off, we can take our needle nose pliers and scrape around the inside of her head. With all the plugs disrooted and pulled through the neck hole, we can chuck all those gunky bits into the bin. I'm going to quickly take out some yellow acrylic paint and slap it across her skull as a base for her hair. For her hair, I've got this wonderful yellow nylon from the Doll Emporium, as well as a small bit of minty green / blue, which I think would be great for some highlights, inspired by the original Darling Charming doll. To reroot, I will take my rerouting tool and stab it into her head with a small weft of hair, after stabbing a hole with a guiding tool. And once we've done that a couple hundred times across the entire head, I scrape it back into a ponytail. It's so pretty, isn't it? Now, the hair did give me a certain tropical vibe, so I think we're going to be doing a bit of a cross between chav and tropical magical girl. So this should be a fun mix. But to get started on her face, we have to remove her face paint with acetone. To do this, I take a cotton swab and gently sweep in circular motions to not smear the paint around the face. What is quite interesting on this doll is how much the sculpt actually strays from the paint. But with her face all prepped and clear, we can give her a coat of Mr. Super Clear. And with that all dry, we can bring her back and get started on her face. Taking my chalk pastels, I go in with a big fluffy paintbrush and some orange to add some depth to her eye creases. I then also, with a smaller paintbrush, add some browns to her nose to add a bit more depth and some pinks to her lips to help build up the colour for later. Taking my kneaded eraser, I also swipe away any excess dust which falls where I don't want it to be. With our base layer of pastels done, I take a sharp pinkish pencil to start roughly sketching in the line of her eyes. I use a pencil which is very close to her skin tone so that if I do make any mistakes and can't 100% rub them out, they won't be as visible. Taking my white pencil, I start to block in colour. I add some brightness to the centre of her eyes because I really want the colours to shine through, and some white to the whites of her eyes because of course those have got to be as bright as they can be. Then I take a black pencil to start defining the eye shape even more. With a yellow pencil, I also start sketching in the base of her eyebrows. Going back and forth with pencils until I can get my desired colour on the first base. Now, the base layer is not going to be that great. You will of course have to build up your colours layer by layer, but try to get as much colour on each layer as you can. As soon as the pencils stop taking, you go and add another layer. With our next layer of Mr. Super Clear applied, I go in with some yellow pencil to add some brightness to her eyes. To make her eyes even more interesting, I'm going to try adding a gradient from pink in these ones. I go back and forth between each eye, trying to build up the colour equally so one is not brighter than the other. I also take a brown pencil to add a bit more definition to the edge of her eyes. With another layer of Mr. Super Clear sprayed on, I can go back in with new energy to make her eyes even brighter. I carefully sketch around the darkness of the pupil because while it is still a layer below, I want it to be a bit more defined than the rest of the eye, so that she has a kind of staring through your soul look. To brighten her eyes even more, I take a dampened paintbrush, making sure to dip it in a small amount of water to pick up pigment from the pencils, because this can make the eyes really pop. Off screen, I also break out the gouache paints to make the whites of her eyes super duper bright. Continuing with this tactic with paintbrush and lifting water off the pencils, I managed to really make the colour of her eyes pop, and I'm really happy with how she's turning out so far. But now, onto the scary bits, the eyelashes. I'm going to try and do this with a pencil because I can get much thinner, more feathery lines which are perfect for eyelashes, but fingers crossed that I do not mess them up. But with that, her face is done. I am extraordinarily happy with how this one turned out. And with her hair out of the hair burrito, she can fly free. I am so happy with how she turned out, but alas, I think she needs a bit more sparkle. And oh my lord, look at how pretty the glitter looks in her eyes! Ah! But to make everything super duper shiny and perfect, we are of course going to seal it all in with a coat of high gloss varnish. And with that done, we can reattach her head to her body. To do this, I gently squeeze the temples, twisting the body back and forth the head pops on. So pretty. Now we're going to start on her weapons. To do this, I'm going to be taking some white morph, which is a plastic that can melt in boiling water and you can model it, make it into whatever shapes you want. And we're going to be using this to make her gauntlets and weird shieldy things. I take a blob of it and pop it onto tinfoil since I don't want it sticking to my desk, and I take an old Mr. Super Clear can to roll it out, and oh no.
Emotional, damn it!
It would seem I have made a minor error in my judgment in thinking that it would not stick to my can. But that's fine. I can take a small blob of what I salvaged off the can and press it into a small disc. And taking a star cookie cutter, I will press it into the white morph. With Eros's motif being stars, I thought it would be quite sweet to have her as stars, so all of her weapons, beads and everything will all be star-shaped. I've got these 2 little white morph stars, and 2 little beads that I covered in hot glue. Since I've run out of mould making stuff, we're cheating and making them out of hot glue, so I just covered our stars in hot glue. And with a nice mix of golden glitters, I pour them into the mould with some resin. And here they are dry. Now to remove them from the mould. I have a little trick that before the resin is 100% cured and solid, I remove them from the mould while it's still a little bit bendy. And with a teeny bit of pressing back into shape, we have a cute little star. These are all looking pretty good, but the tops are a bit matte, so I will give them another coat of resin. But with those all shiny, we can get on fixing them down. To do this, I take the biggest stars and glue them onto a piece of craft foam. I sketch out a small star around it and carefully cut them out using an X-Acto knife. Here you can see me trimming down the last bits of the second star. I can then take these smaller gauntlet bits, which I have made by cutting out two tiny little shapes, and I'm going to heat them up over a candle, because this will help bend them and morph them so that they can properly work as gauntlets. I take a small candle and light it. Careful not to set your table on fire, as I almost did. And I'm going to test this technique with a small piece of foam. This is a tutorial by Dollightful. A link to her tutorial will be up in the eye. Be very careful because, as I found out from doing this, fire is indeed quite hot. But with my small test piece nicely burned, we can try again with another test piece and getting it to fit onto the doll's arm. This one seemed to work a lot better. And for a last bit, since it's a bit difficult to reach the doll's arm because I set it too far away from my candle, I curl it around a pencil which is roughly the same diameter. Now we can take our bigger pieces. Taking the first one, I gently heat it over the candle, and I press it around my pencil to begin with. This will help get some of the shape, but due to the way the arm bends a bit on the doll, I will be bending it around the doll arm. But from that, we've got a pretty good looking gauntlet, and with a bit more treating from the heat, we can get it looking perfect. We can then also take some puffy paint and pipe it along the edge to add a kind of raised edge to the gauntlet. And while that's drying, we can give her her signature chav hoop earrings. I'd make them with two small jump rings and bending it a tiny bit outwards. I then take a tool to pierce her ears, because this doll didn't have any in the first place. For some reason it made her ears a bit green, but we can fix that. And I put the two small hoops in, and they're just adorable, aren't they? I also braid her hair a bit, but more importantly, I add some thread to her gauntlets. And with puffy paint put around the edge and everything glued in place, her gauntlets and shields are done. My theory and lore for her is that the gauntlets turn into these weaponized sharp shields that she needs for fighting. But with those done, we can move on to her shoes. I wrap her feet in tinfoil and break out the air dry clay. I make 2 blocks and press them into her feet for some sandals. With those dry, I sand them down until they look perfect. And of course, they need a bit of glitter, because life is shitter without glitter. I add a base of metallic blue paint and add some Mod Podge glue on top so that the glitter will stick. To make sure I don't lose any, I sprinkle the glitter over a small pot. Absolutely adorable, am I right? And for the rest of the sandal, we're going to be taking this twine ribbony stuff and wrapping it around the shoe so it looks kind of like a woven sandal. I'm pretty happy with them, all things considered. And we can attach some string to them to make them stay on the doll's feet. And they are done! I added in a small sliver of fabric to cover up all the ugly bits of gluing, but you don't need me to tell you how to do that. Now onto the clothes. I take a small bit of ribbon for the waistband and cut out 4 petals. I put a small slit in each one of them so that I can curve them out. And because I cannot be bothered to sew, I glue them all together on the skirt. Now, to make her a bit more flowery and summery, we will also be making the rest of the skirt look a bit like a Cosmo flower, which looks kind of like the sun. I also outline each petal and paint stars on them to bring the star motif in again. And with that done, we can buckle it onto the doll. It just looks adorable. We can also make her a teeny tiny little shirt. This was made by cutting fabric and testing if it fit on the doll. I will not be giving you a tutorial because you guys should not be following my leadership. But with enough trial and error, I finally got a piece that fit out of my scraps of fabric. And with a bit of lining and 2 aqua buttons to tie into her hair and shoes, she is looking adorable. I also take a small sticker of wings and put it on her back and fasten some ribbons around her waist, because of course your girl needs dem bows. And I add some more ribbons onto her gauntlet shields. But with that, she's done! I absolutely love the photos I got from her. I was lucky enough to be on holiday around the same time I finished this doll, so I took her with me to get some really wonderful photos. She's just beautiful, isn't she? I think I'll be naming her Isla, a name which means island and perfectly suits our trav/tropical magical girl doll. I'm so happy with how she turned out, from the eyes to the hair to the shoes to the outfit. I'm really happy with how she is. Do you guys think I should make more magical girl dolls? Leave your comment in the comment section below. And as always, if you liked the video, leave a like, and please send it in to a friend and maybe click that subscribe button if you feel like it. Thank you guys so much for watching. Go check out my Redbubble shop, and I shall see you all in the next one. Bye!